I have heard the saying that they call it the present for a reason, because it's a present, it's a gift. As design firm owners, as business owners, as leaders in our industry, and yes, as human beings living our lives outside of our work, we're often wearing so many hats, trying to do all the things, trying to juggle absolutely everything between family and life and health, and yes, client work too. How many times have you found yourself not being 100% present with a client, or in the design work that you need to knock out, in the correspondence that you need to communicate to a contractor or a consultant? And how has that affected your business? Today, we're talking about that the quickest path to profits is actually in being present. Stay tuned. Giving architects and landscape architects the tools and strategies to be seen, heard, and valued in the marketplace, and telling the stories of leaders building thriving design firms and attracting their ideal clients. This is From Architecture to Profitecture. I'm your host, Jay Krakowski. Let's get started. Fellow and future Profitex, hello, how are you? Welcome to the show. This week, we are talking about the notion of presence before profit. And I've been thinking about this through some coaching work that I've been doing about speaking and selling from stage. And as it were, it's a virtual stage over the last 12 months, isn't it? But the idea of being present, and what's been so interesting for me is that translates directly into the client work that we do, or in the collaborations that we take on with other consultants. And in this age of the pandemic, among other things, as well as just being busy human beings, we can often find ourselves in one place but thinking about another place, or handling one task and thinking about another, being with the client and thinking about another client's work when something reminds you of that other project perhaps. And I want to talk this week about some strategies that I have been learning and studying to get present, to be present in the moment, and really be able to share our gifts of skills, of talent that we've developed over the years, and the services that we now provide as design firm owners to the world, to our clients and to the world. And I'm gonna go at this in two directions. We've got the mind and we've got the body. That kind of encompasses everything, right? But let's talk about being mentally present. When we take on a task, when we go into a meeting, when we call that client, what are some ways that we can get more mentally present to them? And we'll start with how we start our day. Your morning routine. Have you developed a morning routine? I will say, as father to two very busy boys, 3 and 5 years old, my morning routine it's tough. It often goes out the window, as it seems. 3 is an interesting age. If you haven't had children, it's interesting. But developing a morning routine, when that alarm clock goes off, or if you happen to have developed the skill of waking up at a certain time every morning, or you have flexibility because of how you have set up your work, what are you doing? What are those first 3 things that you're doing when you wake up? For me, it's always drink a glass of water, always. It's about 16 ounces of water, 2 cups, whatever you want to call it. That's always first. The rest, it's a little, it fluctuates depending on the kiddos. But what's your morning routine? Is exercise part of that? Is meditation or stretching part of that? Are you going for a walk? Are you walking the dog? That's part of my routine in the morning. How are you setting yourself up for the day? Because it sets up everything. It sets up how well you will do everything during a given day. So write these things down. Maybe for the next 5 days, write down the order in which you tackle things before you start your workday. Or are you rolling over and turning the phone over and immediately going to email, immediately going to a news site and checking in, as it were, for whatever happened the previous day, the previous night? And how is that affecting your mood? How's that affecting your productivity? It's something to look at. Related to that is, throughout the day, what are you taking in? We are bombarded in this modern age, we're bombarded with, it's something like 7 to 10,000 advertisements a day, even if it's just, a bumper sticker, a sign on the road, all the ads on social media, whatever's coming into your email inbox that you haven't unsubscribed from yet. What's coming into your brain? And are there ways that you can trim the fat a little bit? Are there things that aren't serving you as best as they could? Here's a technique. Before you get on the phone, let's say you're getting on the phone with a client and something has gone wrong in the project, whether it's delays in getting estimates, whether you've had some disagreements over the design direction, whether the production is taking longer. And I heard this, it's kind of an old sales technique: smile, then dial. By forcing yourself to sit and smile, and if you can do it in a mirror, that's even better. You probably start laughing, you probably crack yourself up. Sit there and just smile. It's releasing endorphins in a way into your system, so that when you make the call, when you dial those numbers, you already have at least a slightly elevated positive frame of mind going into this call. And it could be especially if it's a difficult call, you want to start off as constructively as you can, especially if tensions are high. Here's another thing on being mentally present. Especially if you find yourself distracted, or again, it's a stressful phone call before you get on that phone call, or if you feel like you're being pulled in 12 different directions between email and the phone ringing, every 10 minutes while you're trying to work through a design problem, take a look at different types of breath work. Now, I'm no expert by any means, but the exercise of slowly inhaling for 3 to 4 seconds, holding your breath for 6 to 7 seconds, and then 8 to 10 seconds exhaling. Do that 3 times. We're going to do it right here, and let's see how you feel afterwards. So we're going to inhale for 4, hold for 7, and release for 10. And you'll do that 3 times, and I can already feel in one that my nerves have kind of settled a little. I'm not nervous. I get a little butterflies before I go on live, but on the podcast here. But especially if you're walking into a situation where tensions might be high, or you just find yourself distracted. You find yourself, it's 3:37 in the afternoon here, and you're saying to yourself, "Man, I just did not get what I needed to get done today. I couldn't get these 3 things started because I was going back, and this client called, and I had to put out this fire." Try breath work. It's so simple, and it can kind of not suppress, but reduce your anxiety, or calm the nerves a little bit, so to speak. And I've got an even better one for if you happen to be. This is especially if you're presenting on stage, and I'm pulling from the speaking training that I'm going through. It's called the grounding technique. And again, if you find yourself totally distracted, you've had a bad focus day, or you're going on to a live stream, or you're presenting somewhere, you're presenting to a high profile client, you're going to go through that breath exercise. You're going to do that once. So inhale for 4, hold for 7, release for 8 to 10 seconds. Then look around the room and don't say the thing, but say the colors that they are. Pick 5 things. So green, black, brown, red, gray. Take another breath. Do that again. Feet flat on the floor. Wiggle your toes. Take another breath. What's in your head? It should be nothing. It's kind of miraculous how it works. It should be, you should have no thoughts, certainly no bouncing distractions in your head. But this, again, it's super simple, but it's, who goes around their room and looks at colors of things, and who sits there and wiggles their toes? It's a good kind of distraction. We'll call it that. Yeah, the good kind of distraction. But it's called the grounding technique. Especially helpful if you're going onto a stage, live or virtual, and you feel the butterflies are just bouncing around in your stomach, and you're starting to sweat a little bit. Do that grounding technique. It's kind of interesting how it kind of resets everything. It resets by resetting your mind. It helps reset your body. And now we're going to talk about the other way around. expanding your physical presence so that you can become present. The first and the biggest one, and this is especially a problem for us because we are most often sitting in front of 3D modeling or CAD software, is your posture. Are you taking time periodically throughout the day to assess your posture? I'm working on it. I'm terrible, but I'm working on it. That I have to, get your shoulders back and sit up a little bit straighter, especially if you're going on camera like I'm recording now. You deliver your information and you convey the mood so much differently when you're sitting up straight and your shoulders are back and your head is held high. Not full on Superman. Although we're going to get to that. I'm bringing Superman into the mix here. But take time throughout the day to evaluate your posture. And is there something in the chair or some sort of support that you need, or at the end of the day, it's just your back is exhausted. That was the case in the last chair I had. I tried out one of those stools that didn't have a set bottom, thinking it would strengthen my back. Well, actually, after long drafting or video editing sessions, my back was exhausted, so that didn't work. And I found I was hunching more. But taking time to assess your physical presence is going to help in how you deliver, how you speak with clients, and helping your mental focus. So related to that, especially when you're meeting with clients, I don't know if you're meeting with them face to face or it's just over Zoom, looking at your body language, shoulders back. And there's a study that was done, I believe it was in the 1960s. They call it the 7-38-55 rule, where when you're delivering any kind of message, and this goes especially true for the marketing messages, as we're trying to get new leads, get new clients, only 7% of the information that's conveyed is the verbal. The actual words that we say only account for 7% of the impression that a potential client would have. 38% is your tone and your inflection and how you deliver that. Again, it's really just to do with the tone of your voice. But if I'm a little quieter and I'm delivering the material just the same, but would you really listen to a podcast if I talk like this? No, of course not. You wouldn't subscribe in the first place. You wouldn't be able to make it through a minute. That's 38%. The 55% is body language. Now, I understand that can't be conveyed over the phone, but actually how you sit when you're on a phone call, it makes a difference in how you deliver, in what your tone is and what your inflection is. Going to something like Zoom video, or definitely in person, it makes all the difference. Are you hunched over the table? Are you sitting there, out of camera here, but are your arms folded? That's a big one. If you're standing back with your arms folded or you're leaning back, you don't look like you're engaged with the client or with the consultants. It doesn't matter what you say at that point, because more than half of the message is lost. And honestly, you could really say that 93% of it is nonverbal. The words that we say, the words that we put into our marketing messages or our emails, only accounts for 7%. So the 93%, especially when you dig into emails, there's such a greater chance of your true meaning being missed because they're just relying on the words. So let's take a break here, pun intended. Stretching and movement. How often are you moving throughout your day to get the blood flowing, to get your endorphins up a little bit? I'm not saying you have to go run a mile 3 times a day, but are you taking time to stretch? Let's say when you wake up, right before you go to bed. Are you moving your body, or are you stuck in a chair for 8 to 10 hours? And I understand that deadlines are deadlines and workloads are workloads, but are you moving physically so that your body kind of resets and therefore your mind resets so you can come back in with focus? Getting outside in fresh air is probably the best thing. I try to do that. I think that's probably one of the best things about owning a dog is that he gets me outside, even when it's freezing as it is now. But are you moving your body, and how is that affecting your mood if you're not? And I said I was going to talk about Superman. This is the last thing. The 2-minute Superman. I think they did I can't remember the study that was done, but standing in that Superman pose, and if you remember the old comics, he's up on a a rock or something, and his fists are on his hips, akimbo, as they say, chest out, chin up. And they found that when people stood in that pose for 2 minutes, it reduced their cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. Am I saying to walk into a client meeting and strike the Superman pose? No, unless that's your shtick, and they won't get too weirded out by it. I think it'd be a little strange. But do that just try it. Try it tomorrow morning. See how you feel. But taking that stance of power, of confidence, it actually translates into your mental state. I thought that was interesting. And that pose was actually made famous by Dr. Amy Cuddy. She released a book called Presence about 5 or 6 years ago. But a great quote from her: "Our bodies change our minds change our behavior changes our outcomes." So she has done a lot of studies on physical presence, on your physicality, how you carry yourself. And there are so many techniques, as we've discussed a few today, where in changing how you move your body, how you hold your body, it actually affects your mental presence, and your tone and your inflection, and how you deliver your service to your clients. So I hope those were interesting and helpful for you, all thinking about getting and staying present in these often hectic times, whether it's to do with the pandemic or the political situation or the economy. Most of my stress from this morning before recording here was clients lamenting about lumber prices. They're not going anywhere, guys. So it's been an interesting few weeks, as people are realizing that cost of construction is not going to come back down even post-pandemic, I don't think. It's just too busy. But so we need to stay present and focused on our clients to help them meet these challenges and create great designs in the world. If you would, head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review if you haven't done so. Love to get your feedback there. And until next week, make it a great week, because our success is inevitable. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you stay up to date with future episodes. Connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn @Jake Krakowski. And for show notes and much more, visit prophetecturebydesign.com/podcast.